Me, Chirio. Okay, got it. Okay. Hall of Fame producer, EVP. His agency is doing $500,000 a month, and there's a lot for us to learn. And it's a pleasure for coming on, Jay. Appreciate your time, bro.
Of course, man. Yeah, you lead the way, dude. I'll share anything you guys want to know.
Awesome. I know a few of my people switched to speaker view. How do we do that?
No, it's for everybody to see you guys.
Oh, got it. Cool. All right, Jamie. So my man, let's get straight to it, bro. I know you got another call after this. So do I. So if you don't mind, just a little of your background before you came into FFL, my man.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm 28 years old. I live out here in Oregon. So I'm actually calling you guys from my office on our farm. So we've got 55 acres out here. I'm originally from Michigan, moved out here a couple of years ago when my wife and I got married. Now, a lot of people, they see that I live on a farm and they're like, okay, so you're doing all virtual. No, I actually drive to about 90% of my appointments. So about 200 to 300 miles per run day. So I'm not afraid to get out of my county. There's some days where I do 7 counties in one day because that's where the premium's at. So my background, I got started as an entrepreneur when I was 18. So about 10 years ago, I got involved in direct sales and network marketing. It's actually where I met a guy named Grady Polson, who a lot of you guys know. Grady, FFL America, Integrity Partner. He's one of my oldest friends, known him since I was in college. And we spent about 5 years going around the country selling energy drinks to college students. And we built a team of about 10,000 people doing it. And that was just a fantastic opportunity. And unfortunately, that industry, they decided that they were going to change some policy across that industry. And because our company was the loudest and the fastest growing, kind of like FFL, they decided to use our company as an example. And so we got shut down as they changed policy across that industry. And we went from, high 6-figure incomes, or what I thought was a high 6-figure income, basically overnight lost it, had company paid for a car that was no longer, company paid for, high expenses and no income. And I spent a couple of years kind of jumping from opportunity to opportunity, trying to find my way, ultimately tried to start my own direct sales deal in the travel space, kind of fell flat on our face, had a lot of fun though, where I met my wife. So no regrets. And then I got into digital marketing and advertising. So I was actually a lead vendor for roofing and solar companies. So we were running Facebook and Google ads for roofing and solar companies for a long time, built up an agency to probably about $500,000 a year, which it sounds impressive, but when you have 4 partners and 2 employees, I was basically paying myself like $2,000 a month. So I owned my job, and it wasn't fun. And ultimately we dealt with a handful of different things towards the beginning of the pandemic, dealt with some embezzlement from a partner. When you have like $50,000 missing from your company bank account, you have to make some decisions on what you're going to do. So I ended up leaving that business and didn't know what I was going to do. And I got in touch with Grady, and at the time, I had no interest in being involved in insurance whatsoever. I just reached out to Grady because I saw that he was having another baby, and I wanted to say congrats because he was an old friend. He caught up with me and he said, "Hey, dude, as much as I think that you would crush it in insurance, you've got the sales background. You've also been on like the entrepreneur roller coaster for a couple of years. So why don't you come in and work for our agency on a corporate side? I'll pay you a salary, and you can help from a marketing and recruiting side of things." And
that's how it started. Okay.
So I started working for Grady for about 6 months, helped with a lot of the recognition type stuff that he has going on, a lot of the YouTube podcast type stuff, and fell in love with the FFL just as a company. And, always thought, maybe one day I'll build an agency, maybe one day I'll sell insurance. But I also kind of had this weird egotistical thing, like, oh, I did my trench work like 10 years ago, so I don't really want to get back out in the trenches. So it all came down to, I was making about $4,000 a month. My wife was making about $4,000 a month as a teacher, doing it for about 7-8 years. And she got laid off during the pandemic because they didn't know how many students were going to be coming back with the whole virtual move. So we lost half of our income, and we lost our health insurance pretty much overnight. And at that point, rubber met the road. And I said, I gotta get into this. And I had made one too many recognition images for Grady and saw one too many people making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in a month, and said, if that person can do it, I know that I can definitely do it. So my only goal, And I said, I don't need to make 50,000 in a month. I just need to make 4,000 in a month. I just need to make up what my wife's old my wife's old salary was and get us some health insurance. And if I could do that, I'll still keep working for Grady part-time. I'll just run on the weekends, and Monday through Friday, I'll still do everything for Grady because I like the solid guaranteed income.
And is that what you did? Is that how you started with you?
So that's how that was my plan. And then I went out in the field and I made my wife's salary in my first day in the field, and the light bulb went off and I said, okay, best business ever. And I went to work, and I still continued to work for Grady for a couple of months until the point where he ended up forcing me to fire myself because the agency started to grow and I started getting good in the field. And he said, you know, dude, you got to do this full time. I'm not going to let you continue to work for me because there's a better opportunity here for you to build an agency and sell on your own pen. So long story short, FFL has changed my life. In 2017, after all of that craziness, I had to file bankruptcy. I got my car repossessed. You know, the worst feeling in the world is when the repo man comes and takes your BMW, and now you're driving a 2001 Ford Escort that's falling apart. And I did that for years. And I lived in an apartment that was $200 a month, you know, after making multiple six figures. And my wife, we got together, and she did, we didn't get together when I was making money. So I know that she was a real one. And
nice.
Then we found FFL, and it changed everything. And, you know, pretty much, you know, I was able to deposit over 400,000 in my first full year in the business. And yeah, everything's changed, and we've worked harder than we've ever worked in our entire lives. And it has not been easy. We've got a 5-month-old baby here at home, and the last couple of months have been crazy. I mean, the last year and a half, pretty much from the beginning of FFL, I had a pregnant wife, into the last 6 months, I, you know, had a brand new baby. And it's been really hard, but it's been the most financially fulfilling thing we've ever done.
I was just going to ask, so you would say you pretty much started fresh the last year and a half?
Yeah.
Last year and a half, started fresh, has a big agency, finished Hall of Fame on his first year. So you could say that run was worth it overall.
I mean, absolutely, dude. I mean, I had to have some tough conversations with my wife many times about, I'm going to be in the field until, you know, 8, 9 PM tonight, and I'm going to miss some things, but I'm going to take Sundays off, and I'm going to work my butt off Monday through Saturday. And I'm going to be fully present on Sundays and be fully present on Mondays and Thursday nights when I'm done dialing. But otherwise, like when I'm in the business, I'm in the business. And just having to share that vision with the spouse, because this is something where if you have a family, like if you're single, I envy single people sometimes because they have no responsibilities, but I also don't envy single people because, like, I would never trade a family for anything because it's the best thing in the world. But you have to have those hard conversations with your family if this is something you're going to do full time, and you just need to consistently share the vision of where this thing is going, because sometimes it's hard to see the fruits of your labor. And yeah, it's just hard to see the fruits of the labor when you're first getting started.
Awesome. So we do have a lot of people here that everybody make sure to mute yourselves. I'll do it. A lot of people here do have families. You know, we have mothers here that are doing their best to run, men who have their wives and children. In 30 seconds, what's a conversation that you feel could really for the spouse to really understand that vision? How did you communicate on your end?
Yeah, I mean, we
don't
have,
gotta go full
I mean,
detail,
it's not, there's no 30-second conversation about it. Let's just say that,
fair.
because every couple of weeks we're having the same conversation, because I work really, really hard for a couple of weeks, and then I set goals for relief. Okay. So it's like, if we do X, Y, Z over the next 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to take this day or these 2 days off, and we're going to spend that time together. And it's looking forward to those relief type goals. But it's like, hey, I have to hit my numbers in order for us to do that.
Gotcha. Fair enough. So fast forward, before Hall of Fame, you get started. Mm-hmm. Your lead structure. So we're going to get pretty basic, the whole formula thing, right? And the amount of time that we have. So your first lead investment, how much was it? And how did you dial? Because I feel so many agents here, they're so handicapped by picking up that phone. Mm-hmm. And I think that's not just in the frontline agency, you know, probably Live and Hope, probably a lot of other agencies. That phone is just such a scare, right? So I hear how you talk and how you were talking with your agents, and when you brought me on, you're pretty detail oriented, I would say, right? And pretty structured from what I observed. Your first lead batch, what did you do? And if you don't mind, just a phone call. How would you talk to a client, a lead?
Sure. Yeah. So back when I first got started, instant internet leads didn't exist yet. So I bought a big batch of game time final expense leads. And then I went into the CRM and I cleared out pretty much every single old final expense mailer that existed in the 7 counties that surrounded me. And I spent $1,500. I ended up with about 400 leads. So if it says anything about how my leads were dispersed, it was mostly the old leads, okay, to be able to get that level of that quantity of leads. So I probably had maybe 40, 50 brand new Facebook final expense, $20 a piece. And then the rest was split up into old Facebook mailers. And I dialed until my fingers fell off, because we also
Literally, right?
we didn't have phone burner either.
Did not stop dialing.
Yeah, we didn't have phone burner either. And I also, my mindset behind Dial Day, because I think it's changed quite a bit. And I think that, we're quite spoiled now with internet leads and phone burner to be able to plug everything into phone burner and not have to look at the sheet and redial it over and over and over again, and have to type in those, 10 numbers over and over and over again. And also to be able to keep the pace. I mean, when I first started dialing, to keep a pace of, 25 to 30 dials an hour, it was work. Like, you were moving, your hands had to be moving. There was no distractions. You couldn't be scrolling on Facebook like you can now if you're on phone burner.
Remember,
It just goes next. If you didn't have a good pace, your dial day was going to be very long. So I had to sit there and constantly remind myself, and I got distracted plenty of times as a brand new agent. Don't get me wrong. Like, I did not have like the perfect, go around here. But I had to sit there and remind myself, dial hard, dial fast, dial hard, dial fast. And I kept saying that to myself over and over and over again, and trying to just remove everything else out of the way. Because the one thing that, a lot of people, they hate dialing, I love dialing now, and I'll tell you why here in a second. But I think that the one thing that's worse than dialing is dialing at 7 or 8 p.m. On a Monday or a Thursday, because you weren't disciplined in the morning and just got it done in the early afternoon. It's the worst thing in the world, just dialing in the evening. And I don't mind dialing in the evening if I'm just trying to get some extra appointments, because people answer in the evening. That 4 to 7 window is golden.
Definitely.
But if I was not disciplined in the morning and I'm coming into 4 to 7 with 2 appointments, I'm panic dialing. Okay. I'm panic dialing, and desperation comes through my voice. And now I'm trying to argue with some of these clients and fight them. The desperation
that doesn't go well.
I'm not booking the appointment, versus I already have 12 appointments and I'm trying to pick up my last 3 between 4 and 7. That's just a totally different thing. So I try to avoid panic dialing at all costs, because the clients, they can feel everything. So I play games with myself, and I did this when I was a new agent. I do this now. I'm not going to get up from this chair to go to the bathroom until I set 1 more appointment.
Fair.
We're not going to get lunch downstairs until I set 2 more appointments. It's just, those are the types of things that I would do before I would get up. You set goals for relief. Okay. Goals for relief.
Chavez, jot that one. Goals for relief.
So sit in the chair at 7:30 and just, you go to work. And I think that it's just, most people can't discipline themselves to do that. Now, live dials has been one of the most impactful things that's ever happened to me in this business, because when I was dialing by myself or when I was on live dials and I was dialing muted, nobody ever heard when the client said, "Hey, I need to think," or I already got it taken care of, or I didn't fill that out. And I just said, "Okay, thanks. Have a good day." Click. No one ever heard that, because I was by myself. No one ever heard me just put my tail between my legs when the client barked at me. And I think that it's important that when you open yourself up and you get off of mute, you start to just follow the system. It's really weird, but when you get off of mute, you don't want to be the person who's unmuted that's not following the system. So you start fighting for your appointments more. You start challenging clients more. Whereas when you're doing it by yourself, no one else will ever know if you're giving up. And you'll find yourself, when you're by yourself, you're looking for the easy layup appointments. You're looking for the ones that are yeah, sure, come on over. And then all the ones that give you any type of pushback, you're like, oh, that lead sucked. That lead must have not filled it out. I need to stress to everybody that these internet leads, the way that they work, and I think it's so important to understand the
Please
psychology
tell
behind
us.
this.
Yes.
With the internet leads, every single one of these people filled out a 15-question questionnaire. Now, when somebody says, I didn't fill it out, or I'm not interested, if you believe that, you have the wrong mindset. Okay. And I'm not trying to like tell you to lie to yourself. I'm telling you they actually filled it out. Now, the thing is, the client is lying to you. Okay. And here's why. Because the difference between an internet lead and a Facebook lead, if Rob's scrolling on Facebook and ad pops up on Facebook saying, senior benefits program, whatever, and he clicks on it, he fills it out, he keeps scrolling. He's not getting retargeted in the next 30 seconds for another one. But when you fill out a form on the internet, you go from one quote tool that when you fill out that quote tool, it exclusively comes into the FFL CRM. But then guess what happens? People who go on Google look for multiple quotes. They literally typed in life insurance quote or something along those lines into the search engine. So don't you think that they're going to fill out multiple forms to try to get comparisons? And then they get retargeted off of that second one. It goes to 3 different forms. Now they have 10 telemarketers calling them from call centers all around the country. And then they have us calling them. Okay. So what do you have to do? You have to, Rob said this the other day on our call. He said, you have to bring a human element to the call. You have to bring a human element to the call where when, I call Rob and he says, I'm not interested. I don't say, okay, thanks. Have a good day. I say, are you not interested because you didn't think you could qualify or because you're mad that your phone's been getting blown up with so many phone calls? And that just like, it's such a diffusing statement. And they're like, what did he just say? It's like, are you just mad that your phone's been getting blown up with so many phone calls? They're like, yeah, no, that's exactly it. Okay, perfect. That's exactly why I'm calling. I'm the manager calling to apologize that you've been receiving so many phone calls. My job is to get that information out to you so we can get those phone calls to stop. I got the address here. It's the 123 Main Street. Is that correct? And I cannot tell you how many internet leads that I've turned from pissed off to a booked appointment and a closed deal, big premium, because I just was human with them for a second. And they're not uninterested in the life insurance. They're uninterested in the process to get the life insurance. They're pissed off that their phone's been getting blown up. And when you're the first person that finally just like recognizes that they're mad, they're like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, I'll talk to you. And the craziest thing is the easiest appointments to book off of internet leads, those are typically like the homeless people with Direct Express MasterCards.
Yes. Yes.
The ones that are the hardest to book are like where you find a mortgage protection appointment for $11. The person who's pissed off, here's what you have to understand. And this is why it's so important to have this mindset when dialing internet leads is the person who's pissed off isn't just pissed off at you. They're pissed off at the 12 other telemarketers too. So if you are able to be human for a second and book that appointment, you are the only one who's going to talk to that person about life insurance. If you can get your foot in the door, I promise you, you are the only agent that they will talk to. They've got their gates up and they're blocking everybody. But if you can be the one who gets in, you're the only person they'll ever talk to. So your policy's not getting replaced. Trust me on that, because they're not answering to anybody else. So if you can just understand that the hardest ones to book are typically the best clients and the easiest ones to book are, I mean, they're not always the worst clients, but they can be. You can get some easy layups, but the hardest ones to book are typically the best clients. They're awesome when you get to the home. They hate the pressure. And it's like when you get there, you're just like, yeah, no, I understand. It's super annoying that you guys are getting blown up. That's why I'm the local guy. You got people calling you from what, like Pennsylvania, Florida, Texas, Connecticut, all over the place, right? Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm the local guy right here in Lynn County who's been assigned to help you out. Real simple.
Wow. So I think the massive factor there was that the wording, if you don't mind, just one more time, the wording that you just said when you're calling, it was because you couldn't qualify or because your phone is being blown
so
up?
I'm not interested. And are you not interested? So like typically the response is I'm not interested. And are you not interested because you couldn't qualify or it was too expensive? And that's typically like what a lot of people will say. And we just changed and tweaked it a little bit to, are you not interested because you couldn't qualify or you're just annoyed that your phone's been getting blown up so much? And I can't tell you how many people are like, I'm just annoyed. Perfect. I totally understand. I'm sorry. That's exactly why I'm calling, is to apologize. Like, thank you.
I'm the manager here to apologize.
I'm the manager calling to apologize.
and then you get into personal information like their birth date or address.
Yeah. And as soon as you get them to answer a question, you've taken control. So the key to dialing is anytime you get an objection, quickly minimizing whatever it is that they said, and then asking a new question. Every time that you ask a question and they answer that question, you're back in control. If you guys have ever heard of straight line persuasion, Jordan Belfort, he talks about, you're going down a straight line. And it's like, if the beginning of the straight line is the beginning of the phone call and the end point of the straight line is you booked the appointment, your client's going to try to knock you off that straight line many, many times. And every single time they knock you off the line by asking you a question, making some form of a statement that's an objection, all you need to do is quickly acknowledge that they had an objection. Perfect. That's exactly why I'm calling. Quickly overcome that objection with a statement, whatever that is on your objection sheet. We're not going to go through all the objections, and then simply pivot back in or loop back into the line with a new question. So I didn't fill that out. Perfect. That's exactly why I'm calling. Go with your statement, and I got your date of birth here is 8/15/93. Is that correct? And if they answer that question, so like I said, this isn't going to be an objection clinic. I'm not going to give you guys every single way to go into the objections, but if they answer that question after you overcome the objection, you're back on track and you just continue on your script. The biggest mistake that new agents make is they go over the objections and they don't ask a question. So they'll say whatever it says on the sheet to overcome the objection. In that, I'm just the manager who's been assigned to come out there and review your policy. And it's like, then they pause and they wait for the client to urge them on. And it's like, that's not going to happen. The client's not going to urge you on. You have to ask a question at that point. And if they answer the question, no matter what the question is, you're in control. If they're answering the questions, you're in control. If they're asking you the questions, the client's in control.
You're in control. Awesome. Dude, that's going to change a lot, bro. I really appreciate that, man. Because my whole thing is it because it was too expensive or you couldn't qualify? Mm-hmm. Right? Just like we always hear. So I love that switch up. So let's get to a basic in-home. You get to the client's house, right? I know you're a closer. You just cleaned up Hall of Fame too, right? So you get to the client's house, you pull up, you get to their door. Explain to us your process, please.
Definitely. So I'll kind of take you guys back to right after my first dial day. I booked like 12 appointments, and now I'm like, holy crap, I just booked 12 appointments. Like, what do? I just spent all this time. My Grady told me just to call the clients, book the appointments, and we'll figure out the in-home stuff later. Don't worry about it.
Now what?
So I trusted him. Now what? And I started to freak out. I'm spinning. So now it's like 11 o'clock at night. My first appointment's at 8 a.m. And it's like, what if I forget what to say? Those in-home videos at boot camp, those were like an hour long. Like, I don't really remember all the things that Paul McLean said. And I don't know if I could say it as eloquently as Paul McLean says it. But there was this one video that I remember I took really good notes on. It was called The 8 Steps to a Final Expense In-Home by Paul.
With Paul McLean?
Yeah, fantastic video. And I had this light bulb moment. And I was like, why can't I wish I could just take my notes from that video into the home with me so I wouldn't forget what to say. Like, why can't I take my notes into the home? And I was like, well, why can't I take my notes into the home?
Nice.
What am I so afraid of? So what I did was so I've got my little binder here. I got my state license on one side. On the other side, I've got my 8 steps to a final expense in home. And at the top, I wrote the word agenda. Okay. So now I take my in-home agenda, which is my cheat sheet as a brand new agent, and I slide it in front of me and the client. And I say, here's what we're going to do today. It created more credibility. It reduced all the sales pressure because they knew what was about to happen. And I wasn't going to forget what to say. And it changed everything for me as a new agent. So, I mean, I'll definitely go through my in-home, and I'm more than happy to send anybody my in-home agenda.
Please do.
But yeah, I mean, real basically, it's just 8 steps. 1, why you filled it out. 2, what does it look like if the family has no insurance in place. 3, who am I? 4, what we're going to do today. 5, the couple things we're about to accomplish today. 6, the financial inventory. 7, show them the options. And 8, see if they qualify. And I'm more than happy to send that to Rob, and he can send it out to you guys.
Yeah, send it to me.
Give you guys a basic overview of the in-home, because I think that if you master setting the table You don't have to worry about just about anything after the
The
financial inventory.
objections and everything else, right?
You don't. So yeah, so we'll pretend, Rob, you're going to be
Sure.
a single 65-year-old who wants to leave some money behind for his daughter. You want to take care of your burial and leave her behind, a little bit of money. Okay.
Sure. Awesome.
Okay, perfect. All right, Rob. So, hey, this is the lead card that was sent into my office. Can you just go ahead and confirm for me that your name is spelled correctly, your phone number is correct, email, birthday, all that stuff looks correct for me?
Yep, it looks correct.
Okay, perfect. And hey, Rob, most people typically fill this out because they want to make sure that if they pass away, there's no burdens left behind, like burial, cremation, final expenses, leave some money behind for their family. Is that kind of what you were looking for? What was going through your mind when you filled this out?
Yes, I had a policy, a few years ago, but I just stopped paying on it. But it's pretty much so I don't have to leave my daughter with any type of burden.
Got it. Okay, and what's your daughter's name?
Her name is Cassandra.
Cassandra. Okay, so basically what you're saying, Rob, is you wanted to make sure that if something happened to you, when something happens to you, that there's no burdens left behind for Cassandra. She doesn't have to dig into her own pocket for your burial, cremation, and you can also leave some money behind for her if it was feasible. Is that what you're saying?
If it's feasible, yeah.
Okay,
Makes sense.
perfect. Got it. Okay, so that's why we're here. Okay, perfect. So no fancy presentation, Rob, because I'm not the insurance sales guy. I'm what's considered the medical underwriter. So my job is just to help you figure out what it is that you're eligible for. Now, this right here, this is my state license. You're gonna get a copy of this. I'm gonna send you a text with it, okay? Like I said, no fancy presentation. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I don't want to deal with that.
Okay, perfect. Now I've got my credibility sheet as well, and I slide that in front of them. Okay, Rob. So like I said, I'm not the insurance sales guy, but luckily I am a broker. All that means is that I work with all of the insurance carriers. I don't work for any of the insurance carriers. So that gives me the ability to kind of shop around for you. And I'm also what's considered non-captive. And Rob, why non-captive is so important. Captive is like State Farm. If I worked for State Farm, I'd be required to show you State Farm. Whereas I have no loyalty to any of these companies. It doesn't really matter to me who you end up with, or honestly, Rob, even if you end up with anybody, my job is just to make a good recommendation for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
It makes sense.
Perfect. So Rob, here's what we're going to do today. We're going to spend about 2 minutes on your health. And I also have my financial inventory. I'm now like waving my hand over top of it. We're going to spend 2 minutes on your health, about a minute on your finance, about a minute on any insurance that you may or may not have. Based on how you answer those questions, I'm going to make a recommendation for you. And then at that point, once I make a recommendation, I'll show you a couple of options. We're going to pick an option, and then we're going to submit a request for coverage to the insurance carrier to see if you can qualify. Now, Rob, there's a difference between a quote and a qualification. I'm going to show you some quotes, but that doesn't mean that you can get any of these. You have to qualify. We're going to submit a request for coverage to the insurance carrier to see if you can actually qualify. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Perfect. Let's get started.
And then financial inventory.
Then financial inventory. So it's just, here's what we're going to do. It's just, here's what we're going to do today. Here's what we're going to do today. Here's what we're going to do today. It's all written down on the paper too. So I'm like going through it with them, and they've got it in front of them. I'm at a point now where I don't even use the agenda, but I give them the agenda so they can kind of follow along with what I'm doing.
That's freaking fire.
Yeah.
So all the here's we're going to do makes it easy at the end where they actually choose an option and you're not dealing with all those rebuttals, correct?
Correct. I mean, I called Rob and I booked the appointment. And when I booked the appointment, I said, and most people fill this out for XYZ reason. And that's what you were looking for or something different. He goes, yeah, that's what I was looking for. I got a yes right there. I gave a soft close or a trial close right there on the phone. Then I booked the appointment. That's a second trial close. They were actually going to be home. That's a second trial close. He let me come over. He got in the door. That's a third trial close. I said, hey, let's go to the kitchen table. And he leads me to the kitchen table. That's another close. I sit down and I say, here's what we're going to do today. And here's the process. And he agrees to the process. There's another close. And then now I'm going through the financial inventory. I go through everything. And now I go, okay, because now I have the financial inventory, and the financial inventory is like, it's Rob's life on paper.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's like, when I'm writing out the financial inventory, I'm like Picasso with a paintbrush, and I'm like, I'm painting their financial life. And now I'm going to show them what I painted. And it's like, all right, Rob, so here's what I basically see. What I see is that if you pass away, you told me that your daughter, she works here, she doesn't have, XYZ in the bank. So if you pass away, she's going to have a really hard time paying for your funeral. So you wanted to make sure that you could leave her behind at least this much. And you also have this mortgage payment. So we wanted to make sure that some of this could maybe go towards just continuing to pay that mortgage for a couple of months so she doesn't lose everything you work so hard for. And you could see why that'd be valuable, right, Rob?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I could see why that'd be valuable. Another trial close. So
what are they going to say? No to that?
Yeah. If I'm in a mortgage protection appointment. Okay. So, and it's a husband, wife. Okay. So I can marry, you make $2,000 a month and Bob, you make $6,000 a month. So if Bob passes away, there's going to be a $6,000 income loss. So having something that would give you about 2-3 years worth of mortgage payments or pay off the house, that would be valuable, right?
Yeah.
Another trial close, so it's just like, and you can see why that'd be valuable, right? I throw that, I'm like explaining a concept to them before I give them what I'm actually going to show them. And they're, excuse me, they're bought into the concept. And then I'm trial closing on the concept. Then after they're bought into the concept of what the protection is, because depending on what's happening, let's say you're sitting down with a mortgage lead and they've got a $200,000 mortgage, but they're 70. Are you going to sell them a $200,000 term?
No.
Maybe you might try, but probably not. So now, if I know that I can't go 200,000 term, I'm pitching them on equity protection, and you could see why that will be valuable, right? Yes. Now they're bought into, I don't need $200,000 worth of insurance. I only need $20,000 worth of insurance. I'm leading and guiding them and directing them in the direction that I want to go. I'm explaining the concept to them and then getting them to buy into it.
Would you say being very intentional with your words and what you're saying?
Of course.
That's the whole thing. And let's say this, guys, by the way, everybody keeps putting their emails. He's not going to send 50 emails. So send it to me and then I'll send it out. So yeah, that's dude, freaking gold. Okay. So let's say they choose the option, right? Now, another conversation, unfortunately, is the whole chargeback thing. Luckily, I think when you do this for a while, the chargeback thing is not the biggest problem. How are you solidifying and closing at the end?
Sorry.
No worries.
A little tickle in my throat. So I do a lot, and a lot of people aren't going to do everything that I do, but so when I come into the home, I've got a bunch of these pre-made folders that my office manager makes up. Okay. So inside of the folder, I've got business card. I've got this thing called I Am Your Life Insurance Policy. I've got the client profile, the credibility sheet, financial inventory behind it. So when I come into the home, I take everything out of this side, and this is what I'm going to be working on. And then I've got the I Am Your Life Insurance and my business card over here. And when I'm done, I'm taking all the policy info and I'm shoving it back into this folder. Okay. So when I am done, they've got a credibility sheet that has the carrier that we're going with circled, the name of the policy, the benefit, the premium, the policy number, the effective date written at the top. And then I take this I Am Your Life Insurance policy, which is just like this sappy thing about why we should have life insurance. And I put a little star right here and I write, Rob wanted to make sure that if he passed away, that Cassandra would have enough money to take care of the funeral and leave a little bit of extra money behind. And I put a couple sentences as to why we did this. And then I take the folder and bright yellow, I've got orange, purple, green, whatever. And I'm all done. And I write on the front, Rob Kakish, life insurance. And I go, okay, Rob, so here's what we got. Bright yellow folder. I labeled on the front what's actually in it so you don't lose it. I'll tell you in a second why we do the bright folder. Okay, inside of here, this is my personal cell phone number. The number that I originally called you on, that was my office line. This right here, this is just something sappy about insurance. I'm not going to read it out loud to you. Otherwise, we might start tearing up and it'll get weird. But I did highlight why we actually did this. And I read it out to him, why we did it. Now, right here, Rob, we've got the Americo Eagle, 30,000. It's $229 a month, the policy number, the effective date. And then I've also got this other sheet that has like my office manager's phone number on it. And it says like, congratulations, your application's been accepted. And I say, hey, it says right here, your application's been accepted. That doesn't mean it's actually been approved. My office manager, her name's Remy. This is her phone number right here. She's going to call you in 24 to 48 hours to let you know if it's actually been approved. If it has been approved, a physical policy will come in the mail in the next 1 to 2 weeks. Now here's where the colorful folder comes in. The number one reason that life insurance policies are not cashed out and there's billions of dollars of uncashed out life insurance is not because people cancel them. It's because their kids and their family members can't find them. So all the life insurance policies come in a generic white envelope. You have a lot of generic white envelopes where you keep your important documents, don't you? Yes. So what I need you to do is when this comes in the mail, shove it in this bright yellow folder. It says Rob Life Insurance in the front, and let Cassandra know if something happens to you to find the yellow folder. Does that make sense? Yeah, that makes sense. Perfect. You have any questions? No? Awesome. It was nice to meet you. See ya.
That's freaking great, dude. That is freaking great. Wow.
So here's another thing. So you asked about chargebacks. I have a 90% persistency rate. 90%. And that's, I believe it's through doing that and a handful of other things. I have staff. I have a virtual assistant who makes sure that, so I'm sure that most of you guys have experienced this. You don't tell a client that they've been approved in the home, and then you say, I'll call you in a couple of days. And you forget to call the client a couple of days later, and the client calls you mad, not because they would have canceled. They're like, I actually really like this policy, but I'm mad because you said you were going to call in 2 days and you didn't. And you didn't. So I'm canceling. When you have staff, even if it's a virtual assistant, pay them $10 an hour. Mine are in the Philippines. They call the client, they let them know they've been approved or denied. I do not let anybody know they've been approved in the home ever.
Really?
Now, if you're the person who says you're approved in the home every single time, that's totally fine. But I like to, whenever I do that, I get a lot of like buyer's remorse or people who want to think about it. So I just say no one's approved and my staff's going to call you in a couple of days and we can always tweak and adjust later.
Awesome. Awesome. So pretty much what your staff has access to whatever they call.
Yeah. So I fill out these client profiles, client profile, name, birthday, address, city, social, email, phone, carrier, product, benefit, premium, effective date, policy number. And I have a little section for notes here at the bottom. And when I get done in the field after 2 days, I just take a bunch of pictures of all of the client profiles that I have. And then they digitize it, throw it into an Excel spreadsheet for me. And then they call the client, send them a thank you card, add them to whatever list they need to be added to. And I've got this thank you card system that like sends everybody an automated birthday card on their birthday because I have their birthday. And, we just sent out all of our clients like a New Year's card and all kinds of stuff asking for referrals. I collect everything.
Great. Yeah, I'll be asking you a couple more questions about that. Jamie, I know you got to get off in like 5-6 minutes real quick, and then I'm opening it up for 2 or 3 minutes of questions.
Yeah, I'll be okay. We can go.
Okay. New agent coming in, or they've been licensed for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, roll probably into 4, 5, 6 months, 2, 3, 4 policies. They're just not having the success. I think we both know why, right? The structure, the actual discipline's not there, but it's just not happening, right? What are some words that you can shed on them?
This is a business where, in my personal opinion, I think it's better to be all in or all out. Like as much as like from a manager perspective, like I'll take all the volume that I can get, but just know that like your $3,000 a month in premium, it's not hurting that your manager, it's hurting you.
Yeah.
Okay. So at the end of the day, like once again, we'll take all the premium we can get. We're trying to build a business here, but your $3,000 in premium for the entire month, and you have a chargeback plus a lead bill, you didn't make anything. Your $7,000 for the entire month, and you spent $3,000 on leads and had $1,000 in chargebacks, you're barely living. So at the end of the day, it's just, if you're going to be full-time, it's different if you're part-time. If you're part-time, you can be at whatever numbers you want to be. But if you're full-time in this business and you're not issuing 10 to 15,000, you have to do something drastically different or quit, because you're going to hurt yourself. You're not going to hurt anybody else but yourself. You're going to put yourself into a situation that it's not going to be okay. So Sean says it all the time. It's like, it's not going to be okay if you don't go to work. Yeah. So you'll find yourself out of this business if you're full-time very quickly, if you're not willing to put in the discipline and the work to get to 15,000 a month, which really isn't that crazy. It's 3 to 4 applications a week, 3 to 4 applications a week. Hall of Fame producers doing 10 to 14 applications a week.
Correct.
All it comes down to is a simple formula of I bought the leads. I actually dialed the leads. I went and I saw the leads. That's it. And Mondays, Thursdays, you stuck to that? Mondays and Thursdays, I stuck to that. And I actually did the work. Now
That's it.
you're the only person
There you
who
go.
knows what you actually did. So accountability is everything. Live dials is an accountability. You're on with your camera on, you're dialing. Most people have their cameras off, they're not dialing. You're on with your camera on, you're unmuted, you're proof that you're dialing. So I'm on live dials every single Monday and Thursday to hold myself accountable. It holds the team accountable. And if you're somebody that struggles to be accountable, get on live dials and turn your camera on all day and unmute every single time that you have a phone call.
It's
You'll
so
book some
important.
appointments. I promise you that. But if you're not willing to get out of your comfort zone and get better, you'll stay in the same place and you'll deal with the same mental blocks that you've always dealt with. The only way to get out of your comfort zone is to find somebody that can hold you accountable and, ask them to hold you accountable.
Amazing. Amazing. We have 50 people on here, so we don't have time for all the questions, but I want my leaders. We got a couple sales managers, a couple SSMs, and a few of my 20K producers. If you guys, I know you talked to your team already. If you guys can unmute yourself, we'll start off with Chavez or Joe Martinez or Vida. Do you guys have a question? Please go
Rob,
ahead
here.
and introduce yourself.
Hey, Jamie, this is Joe Martinez, sales manager here under Frontline and Exceed. Appreciate your time to give us pretty much all your expertise on this. One of my biggest questions is this. When you get to a point when you find, a couple of maybe 3-4 leaders in your hierarchy per se, what's the strategy to start building them to get to the point where it's going to benefit you and the organization overall?
The best thing you can do is be at the top of the leaderboard every single week.
There you go.
And it's not always the piece of advice that people want to hear when it comes to building an agency, but your team will do half of what you do. So if you're doing 20, they'll do 7 to 10. I had a guy hit me up a couple of months ago who his team was doing about 95 a month, and he's like, "Hey, dude," and we were having a really good month. Last month we had a down month, but it doesn't matter. But we were having a really good month. Our issue paid per writer was through the roof. It was like 9 or 10,000 per writer. It was really high. He's like, how do you have such high issue paid per writer? And I was like, well, because I wrote 60 last month. If I wrote 60, my next guy's writing 20 or 30. How much did you write last month? 19. I'm like, well, it makes sense. Your next guy wrote 7. So of course, so it's like leading from the front. Your team looks at you and they say, like, it's weird because there's 1% of people that'll look at you and say, I can be better than him. But like 99% of the people you bring in will look at you as the leader. And like, you're kind of like their ceiling. So like, they can't do better than you. And there's going to be that 1% of people that'll pass you and do better than you. And that's an anomaly, and it's amazing. And you should, help those people with anything you can. But most people don't think they can be better than you. So you have to be at the top of the leaderboard all the time. And when you're at the top of the leaderboard and you're getting recognized in recognition, and it's going out on social media and it's being posted on your social media, your friends and family will see it and people will reach out to you. And you can do cold market recruiting. Warm market is still the best recruiting tool. It's free. And if you guys are at the top of the leaderboard and you're sharing it, I promise you people will reach out to you and your business will grow.
Appreciate it, Jamie.
Thank you. Vida?
Hey, Jamie, thank you so much for this training. Many valuable tips.
This is our SSM Vida. She was my first logo.
Let's go. What's your logo name?
FFL Exceed.
Exceed. Let's go.
Let's go. I'm super excited for this new year. I really want to implement these tools that you use, that folder. Wow, that's awesome, because I know the clients, especially the older ones, they feel comfortable if you leave something behind. And I definitely want to implement tracking all of my clients and sending them emails for birthdays and holidays. That'd be great. There's
a video on my YouTube channel. If you guys look up FFL Living Hope on YouTube, we did one a couple of weeks ago that was called, let's see, how to cement your sales, increase your persistency, and minimize your chargebacks. It was a couple of weeks ago, but we dug deep and I gave all the resources for the folders, everything I do for the system with the send out cards, the whole deal. So check out that video and that'll be helpful. So I don't know, I'm sure you had a different question, but hopefully that helps.
Awesome.
No, that's awesome. I'm taking a look at that tonight. I'm going to implement that in my business for sure. For new agents that you're bringing on, what is the lead strategy that you give them? that you feel will help them start writing right away?
What's available in your backyard, number one. And if it's internet leads, buy as many internet leads as you can possibly get your hands on. If it's not internet leads, let's get creative, because I'd prefer that everybody goes in person if they can. And if there's absolutely no leads, then I recommend a brand new agent does telesales. If they have a telesales background, if there's someone that comes from, background of phones, maybe I'll help them do that right away. But I think it's so important that a new agent gets out there in person to learn those social cues, because when you're brand new and I'm sitting across the table and I say something that's maybe challenging to a client, I can sit there awkwardly until they answer. Whereas when brand new and they hang up, click, done. So for a new agent, just having that in person, I think is important. So I love internet leads. I love Facebook final expense leads. I love all leads. Old mortgage, I don't think it really matters, to be completely honest. I think whatever's available in your backyard, and the CRM is the easiest place to get it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Vito. Chavez or Sean, last one.
Chris, if you don't have one, mine was going to kind of be kind of like Joe's. So my goal is to hit SVP next year. So my question for you was, what's your blueprint that you use for building a team? And when scaling, how do you make sure not to lose what made it successful in the first place? Like to make it duplicatable, so you can have rapid growth.
Yeah, I mean, I heard someone say this the other day, and I thought it was so genius. So hopefully I don't butcher it. But it's as simple as, like, if I commit to the system of buying the leads, making the dials, seeing the families, 30 appointments, sit with 30 or book 30, sit with 20, sell 10, and I, submit my 10,000 a week, and I get obsessed with that, and I do it every single week, and then I just teach everybody those first 4 steps and just duplicate that as many times as possible, and my business will grow. So it's simple as that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Love it. Love it. I think Chavez is on appointment. We'll wrap it up with this last one. I don't know if he's driving or not. Chris, you there?
I'm here.
Go ahead, bro.
Hey, Jamie, thank you so much, man, for this valuable information. I know you keep hearing it over and over, but we really appreciate you taking the time. Just really quick, I have a lot of part-time agents that have just recently joined FFL from practice companies that, a lot of us come from different practice companies. So we have a lot of, I guess you can say, bad habits that we're trying to break. Mm-hmm. And not only that, Jamie, but what recommendations would you give a new agent that is only able to dial like in the evenings or afternoons just to set up weekends because they work full time? I heard you say, for those part-time agents, like it's detrimental and it's critical for them to dial and so forth. But what about with limited time? What can you recommend for those folks?
Sure. So I think kind of a two-parter here. So you got people who have old habits that they're having a hard time breaking. You have to forget everything that you think you know, and just you're a baby in the insurance industry. Again, if this is the industry that you come from or any other professional career that you come from, I've had people who crush it in specific sales things that come here and get their butts kicked because they try to be too fancy when it comes to the presentation, or they try to be too salesy over the phone. You'd forget absolutely everything that you know. Unlearn, relearn, unlearn everything, relearn the FFL system, just plug into that. Number one. Number two, when it comes to dialing for the weekends, it's like, okay, you're part-time. I get that. But during the hours that you set for yourself, you're full-time during those hours. So if I can only dial from 4 to 7 to set up my Saturday, Sunday, I'm going to dial from 4 to 7 on Thursday evening and Friday evening to set up my Saturday, Sunday. And I'm going to, and maybe even later than 7, 4 to 8, 4 to 9, it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to dial within that time period like my life freaking depended on it, because my goal is to fill up my Saturday, Sunday and do that for a couple of weekends. And especially if you're someone who's like, if you're someone who's like, I'm never going to go full time, I get it. But if you're someone who's like, I need to go full time, I just need to prove that I know how to do this, you dial your butt off on Thursday and Friday evening to set up your Saturday and Sunday for like 3-4 weekends in a row. And you get to a point where you submit 5,000 in a weekend, a couple weekends. That's all you need to know. Go full time. But it's like, if you're someone who hasn't proven that you can sell insurance, don't go full time. But it's like, give yourself the opportunity to prove that you can do it. Because if you can sell $5,000 in a weekend 2-3 times, you can sell $10,000 in a week. You just need your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So that's just, I would recommend that you dial hard on Thursday, Friday evening, and you go full time during the moments when you're supposed to be on, and you protect that dial time.
That's right, Jamie. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you, man.
Jamie, we'll end it right here, my man. Thank you so much, bro. Anything the Frontline organization can do anytime, please reach out. Thank you so much. Have an amazing new year, bro. And God bless, man. Thank you again.
See you guys.
Take care, bro. Thank you, Joe.